How's it going, everybody? It's Pride here. So at the time of making this video, I have officially beat Sekiro. It took me about 6 days of like 4 or 5 hour streams. Now I haven't beat it on YouTube, obviously, because I don't want to upload, 5, 6, 7 parts a day, because that would spam your sub box too much. But I decided that while my memory is still fresh with all these bosses that range from pretty goddamn difficult, so I decided I wanted to rank my top 15 most difficult bosses and mini bosses included in the same list. I think combined there are about 38. I decided to pick about half of that, so top 15. Now these are going to be based on how much I struggled personally during my first playthrough. I've only done one playthrough so far. Some people might have a couple different things on their list, but mine is going to range from pretty normal and standard to maybe a little bit weird and odd. You'll see what I mean though. So number 15, probably the first actual challenge for people starting the game, the Chained Ogre. So typically you're not going to have it to weakness, right? You're not really going to have fire by the time you run into the ogre unless you went straight to the dream. Its moveset is pretty simple, which is obviously why it's so low on the list, but it's still one of those things that's probably going to take you a while because you're not really used to the combat of the game just yet, and some of its grabs, even late game, are pretty brutal and unforgiving. Like, you'll dodge 4 times in a row and those grabs will still catch you. That's why I put them on my list, but it is something that you can deal with fairly easily, especially once you power up and you have the fire tool. For number 14, we're gonna have the folding screen monkeys. Now these little monkeys aren't exactly tough, but the thing is, you kind of had to have a great run. Once you see how I dealt with them in my playthrough, it's still gonna be a while, maybe a week or so, or you could watch it on Twitch right now. I got so freaking lucky with the monkeys. So freaking lucky, but you had to be pretty familiar with the mechanics of the game. It basically puts all the mechanics to work except for, stuff like deflex. It puts stealth into work. You got to think about where you want to send these monkeys. They have specific designated areas for each monkey if you want to do it correctly. But you could literally just get really lucky the way I did and sometimes just straight up chase these damn monkeys who are really fast. And there's also the risk of them ripping your nuts off because they're monkeys. Oh, and also you're eating your face. So there's that, and that's why I put them on the list. Number 13, we have a mini boss, Orin of the Water. This is one you do meet a little bit later on. I think you could meet her. She's like mid-game. You run into her in the town that's covered in mist. Now her moveset is really cool. Now she does have ridiculous damage. She'll hit you like 2 times and basically kill you in 2 hits. But the reason she's pretty damn low on the list is because you can cheese her. You can sneak up on her. She won't be aggroed right away. You can pretty much throw like something like a ceramic shard behind her back and it immediately makes her aggro. But then that allows you to do a quick riposte, take 1 of her health bars. But you do have to have that knowledge. Her moveset is really weird, but it can also be abused because she does about the same couple things. But if you do miss, again, 2 hits will probably kill you. At number 12, we have Gyobu Oniwa. Pretty much the first real boss you're going to run into. This boss took me a little while because I was still pretty damn unfamiliar with deflecting. As somebody, coming from the Soul series, you're basically taught to try to dodge everything instead of deflecting. This is probably an hour and a half into the game, where you'll still maybe have that in your head, like, oh, okay, I need to dodge almost everything. Deflecting is not really going to work out too well because you're still not really used to it. But then, once you realize deflecting is the best option, and then he has a pretty abusable moveset. Whenever he goes around the corners with his horse, you can basically grapple onto him, hit him a couple times, and then, rinse and repeat. But for the sole fact that he is the first boss that I ran into, I had a lot of trouble with him personally. At number 11, we have Snake Eyes Shirafuji. Now that is one of the mini bosses that is in the gun fort. This chick took me a solid 30 minutes to beat. I do not know what it was about her, but her moveset is a little bit weird. It is something that's kind of easy to counter once you get used to it. Again, after like 30 minutes, I was able to know exactly which moveset I wanted to abuse and deflect that were easy. But until you actually get that down, her gun does insane damage. She punishes you for trying to run away and heal with a big charge attack that she times you. She basically holds you in her sights for about 2 seconds when you're going away to heal. and if she hits you with that, you're pretty much dead. And you also had to fight her in this small platform where if you move in certain directions, the other enemies are going to shoot you and probably do damage to you. So I definitely found her to be one of the hardest mini bosses to fight in the game. There are two. There is one in a poison swamp area, but I really didn't have problems with that one since I already knew the moveset from fighting this one for a solid 30 minutes. I got her, 2 tries. Next up at number 10, you're probably going to be a little surprised he's ranked so low on the list. That is the true corrupted monk. As you know, there are 2 corrupted monks, but the second one really didn't take me at all any time. It wasn't really that I was, I had seen a bunch of the gameplay, because I did say when I was playing it, it was a little bit weird that this was one of the bosses that they showed very, very early on. But I just didn't seem to have any problem with this boss. It took me, I think, 4 tries to beat the boss. But I think the reason that didn't really take me any time at all was because of number 9. And that is the fake corrupted monk. Yeah, I have the fake one over the real one. This one took me way longer to get used to, even though it has 1 health bar and basically 1 moveset. But fighting it for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I was able to learn the moveset. So when I actually faced the true corrupted monk, I pretty much knew all the moves already. The 3rd phase of the true corrupted monk kind of gets to you with the weird centipede head and everything, but pretty much all the core moves were exactly the same. The fake corrupted monk had like a mixture of the 3rd phase moveset and the 2nd phase moveset and the 1st phase moveset. So getting used to that one at first and then actually fighting it and killing it, I found way harder and took me way more tries and time than the actual corrupted monk, which is really weird. At number 8, we have Juzo the Drunkard. Now, we're talking specifically about the one in the dream when you face him, because that was pretty early on for me. I think I went through Yobu Oniwa, and then I went straight to the dream. So Juzo, I still remember him. I played him when I got the game, I think like 1 day early. Tried him for like 40 minutes, couldn't beat him, and then come to actually starting my playthrough again on Twitch. It took me another solid 40 minutes, man, having multiple enemies in the boss room, especially, trying to figure out what's the best way to go about things. Are you going to do stealth kill on the first one and then run around and kill the ones that shoot arrows at you? There's a couple shield enemies that at the time I didn't even have the axe yet. So I found him to be really difficult. But then you do kind of start to figure out a couple moves that are abusable. Whenever he's drinking his liquor, you can pretty much go up to him and do a strong attack on him. But I definitely struggled way more on him than pretty much any of the former bosses or mini bosses that I've named so far. So now we're getting into, that top tier, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and start it off soft. A soft 7 with Headless. You can pretty much name any of them except the ones in the water. The ones in the water are pretty easy. So Headless was one of those enemies that I was pretty much afraid of for about 70-60% of my game. I didn't really want to face any of them, except when I was kind of forced to, mainly with the water ones. Because you had the situation where if you don't have Divine Confetti, it's going to be incredibly difficult, way harder than it should be. So you need Divine Confetti to face them. The Purifying Agent is something else you also need, because the terror buildup is going to be ridiculous, because 2 of his hits pretty much build that terror, or I think maybe even 1 hit, especially very early on. He slows you down when you're fighting him as well, so you're going in slow motion. The moves honestly being really slow, especially the one where he turns around his weapon 360 to swing it around. For some reason, the slower moves threw me off even more than if they were really quick. So Headless is definitely, I think, that top tier mini boss. He's like that mini boss that is the scariest, in my opinion. And at number 6, pretty much all bosses from here on out. Lady Butterfly. Right after the drunkard himself, when you think, oh, that was really hard. This was a boss, huh? Oh boy, there's something even scarier waiting for you, and it's a little old lady. You can literally hear her bones whistling and cracking as she's jumping from each of the invisible strings that she has set up throughout her boss room. Now, I know there's ways to abuse this boss fight very easily, like pretty much destroy the animation that she does and then just keep abusing that and easily cheese her. I didn't do that. I didn't know any of those things, so I pretty much fought her legit you know, I thought that that was the boss that was like, okay, you've been practicing counters for 2 hours. Here's the deflect boss where you gotta deflect as many things as you possibly can because her moves are incredibly fast. And once you get her first phase, you realize that it's a fake, and there's another one. And she's got weird little butterflies that do a ton of damage, especially the big, you know, super butterfly attack when she makes all her illusions disappear. That was definitely the one that took me the most attempts up to that point, which was about, you know, 2-3 hours into the game. At number 5, Genichiro, you know, the big bad boy. Actually, he's not the bad boy. He's kind of a punk, but he's a scary punk with a bunch of movesets and phases. Now, there's obviously a couple different versions. There's the first version that you run into right in the beginning of the game. I guess you could say that's my number 1 ranked version of him. Then there's the second version where you run into him at the top of Ashina Castle. And he's got his regular moves, and then he's got his lightning version. And he also has the final version, you know, if you got a specific ending before you know who comes out. But overall, you run into him a bunch of times. The thing is, once you get used to his moveset, you kind of annihilate him. He has a pretty predictable moveset for the most part. But the thing that usually gets to you, which is the same thing that usually gets to everybody with most of these mini bosses and bosses, is the damage, man. The damage and the speed that he has on some of his attacks is ridiculous. Again, there's a lot of ways to cheese some of these bosses. A lot of running away, a lot of hitting and then just dipping. I don't really play the game that way. I like doing the deflex, I like using the counter attacks. So I probably made these bosses a lot harder than they probably could have been. But that's just the way that I like playing the game. I like, you know, learning the combat. The combat I think was fucking awesome in this game. So I definitely wanted to try to get better with the combat in this game. And this was definitely, up to this point, the boss that challenged you the most with that specific type of playstyle, with the deflex and everything. Sadly, when I did fight him, I was never able to use the lightning properly. I was always kind of scared to get hit by the lightning because I thought it did a shit ton of damage since I did it wrong a couple times. So I was like, you know what, anytime this lightning comes out, I'm never touching it, even though it's pretty much going to be one of the best things to do a ton of damage. But once you get used to that moveset, it's kind of, you know, game over with this boss. But I still think getting used to it is the hardest part, and he's one of the hardest bosses in the game. So now we have the 4 that are probably going to give everybody a shit ton of problems. And most likely these are going to be like that wall that a ton of people hit that they maybe won't even be able to get through. So number 4, the Guardian Ape. Now I'm taking all of the Guardian Ape's different forms and I'm putting them into one boss. And that is why I would put it super high. Because there are a couple of different phases, right? You have the regular monkey, then you kill him. Oh shit, he lost his head, but he picked it back up and put it back on. And you have a third encounter with this damn monkey, and now he's with his wife. This boss is ridiculous, man. The first time that he woke up, my reaction to that is probably one of the, you know, rare reactions where I've never really known exactly that was gonna happen. I feel like when that has happened, you know, like the Father Ariandel fight in Dark Souls 3, it was kind of that same type of reaction out of me. Because I saw the sword and I was like, oh shit. So something stuck this sword into this monkey. I wonder what we're gonna face. Oh shit. Well, he's getting back up and it's his sword. It's in his hands. Now it is a little bit easier after, you know, when you run into him with his wife, because his wife doesn't do a lot of, well, actually, now that I think about it, she actually does do a lot of damage. It's his wife or her husband or something. So she does do a lot of damage. But the thing is, she doesn't have a lot of HP, so you can kill her fairly quickly. The problem is, it's a pretty small area, and you have 2 giant apes, and you have 1 ape that can scream and pretty much one-shot you if you're too close. Oh man, this boss is gonna give people so many problems. Guaranteed so many problems. But it's a super fun encounter, especially that first time, that first reaction when you realize he's getting back up is super memorable. One of my most memorable moments from the whole playthrough, to be honest. Now at number 3, we have the Owl, Sekiro's father. This dude is basically you turned up to 10. He has your same type of moveset with way more damage. He has all of your prosthetic weapons with a couple added on. he has the ability to stop you from healing for a, 30 seconds or something. The good thing about that is that that specific move is pretty slow. If you do get hit with that heal bomb, he throws out something even scarier, which is an incredibly quick attack. Now, I know that if you have a specific ending or you do specific things, there is a second fight with Owl. Man, sadly, I thought I did a lot of things in the game. I guess I missed a couple eavesdrops where that actually allowed me to unlock the option for that fight, so I wasn't able to fight his actual, third and fourth phase, I guess you can say. So this could, quite possibly be number 2 even. But for now, I will leave him at number 3. And now we're on to the top 2. Now, these top 2 are probably not only the 2 hardest bosses in the game, but I would say they're 2 of the hardest bosses in any of the Sekiro franchise. So number 2, the Demon of Hatred. Fuck this demon, dude. So the Demon of Hatred is a side boss, but it does give you a memory, meaning that you should probably fight it. Even though I know a lot of people are gonna skip it because fuck this guy sometimes, man. I beat him, but I felt like I got lucky beating him. I went into it, having learned the deflect system. I thought, oh, this deflect system will help me through anything. And then here comes this boss. Hey, don't deflect anything because you're gonna get fucked for it. It took me like a solid hour to realize that I should really stop deflecting everything, and then it just kind of turned into me trying to run and play as fast as I could. Running in under his tummy, his weird tarantula tummy, hitting him 2 or 3 times, running away before his big attacks happen. He's got moves that have insane range. Those insane range moves can burn you and then will take a bunch of HP and will already themselves take a bunch of HP if you get hit by them on top of the burn. He's got 3 health bars. That health bar goes down insanely slow, especially if you fought him the way I did, which was without any type of buffs because I'm an idiot. He's got moves that can take away 90% of your HP that are undeflectable and pretty much happen instantly that you need to jump over to dodge. He's got attacks that punish you for going away too far by shooting fireballs, sometimes multiple sets of fireballs that will do a ton of damage. Oh, and burn you as well. And if you think it's safe under his tummy, he does headbutts that squash down and hit you if you're under there. He also jumps away across the entire arena to do some of those long-range attacks. He knows karate. The only thing, really, that I can think of that is abusable in this boss fight is his big slime attack when he jumps up into the air and he has a gigantic explosion because you can grapple onto his head, and even when you do grapple onto his head, while you're going into the grapple, you're still going to take a little bit of damage. Sometimes it'll even fuck up if you do it too early. But this boss is going to be such a hard wall for this game that probably even people who have gotten through the whole game are maybe not going to complete this boss and are just going to give up on it because you don't really have to fight him. So that is my number 2. But for my number 1, I honestly think this might be the hardest boss, if not the hardest, tied with Orphan of Kos from Bloodborne. The only reason I would maybe say this is number 1 in all the Soulsborne Sekiro series is because it's kind of hard to power level through him. Like most things, again, you can cheese, you can run away, do 1 hit, run away, do 1 hit, play very cowardly. Hey, more power to you though, man. Sometimes you just want to get through it. I understand that feeling 100%. I did the exact same thing on Bloodborne with Ludwig. But I liked fighting this boss, face to face, deflex, trying to get in there, outspacing the attacks. And that is the Chained Ogre, Ishin the Sword Saint. So first of all, he has 3 phases. And before you can even fight him, you have to kill his grandson, who he comes out of his body. Literally. Now the grandson is number 5, Genichiro Ashina, who is already in his final phase from that boss fight, except without the lightning, and he has a mortal blade that has a shit ton of range. But the thing is, Genichiro is a punk. Pretty much you can power through him, you can spam the shit out of him, you can get a couple easy deflects. By the time you get to him, the 3rd time that you fight Genichiro, in that specific Ishin boss fight, final boss fight, you're going to be able to get through them, and then, you know, you'll still have all your health, all your heals, or maybe you'll waste 1 or 2 heals. The thing is, for Ishin, man, you had to be so perfect for some of those attacks that have ridiculous range when you get to the second and third phase. Now, the first phase is still pretty goddamn tough. It'll take you a while to get used to that phase's movesets, and then you're like, alright, I got this. Okay, cool, second phase. Oh, he's got a weapon that has 3 times more range and is really fast and does a ton of damage, and he has a Glock 18 on his side, and he's not fucking afraid to use it. Now, you can say that some of his movesets are easier to counter when he has the big spear because he does some bigger lunge and leap attacks, and you can also Mikiri counter him. Now, he does have himself some attacks that you can try to run away from and get out of the range, even though the range is gigantic, or you can try to just perfectly dodge and use those iframes, because it's going to be really hard to counter these with your deflect, or even block them, because with a block they'll still do a shit ton of damage. Now, his third phase, I would say, is probably the easiest, maybe even the second easiest, because it's everything the same as the second phase, except he has lightning. But the thing about the lightning is, the lightning good. You want the lightning because the lightning will allow you to, you know, jump up into the air, take the lightning, and then send it back to him with a big counter hit, doing a pretty decent amount of damage and slowing him down, allowing you to hit him a couple times with your sword. This boss is definitely the boss that took me the longest in the whole playthrough. The first time that I faced him was for about an hour. You know, it was towards the end of a like 6-hour stream that I thought I was going to finish the game. Then once I ran into him, I realized this shit is not happening today. I was too tired and too sleepy. And then I came back the next day and it still took me a solid hour, being fresh and pretty much knowing most of his moveset. So this is definitely the tippity top for me, man. Ishin, the Sword Saint. He was that next level shit for this game. And it's funny because I obviously faced Demon of Hatred, and I was like, okay, this is going to be the hardest boss. And then the next boss I face is the final boss, and that's Ishin. Now, obviously, you guys are going to see all of the completed runs and the best attempts in the playthrough once I get to that point. But this game is just fucking fantastic, man. I don't really know if I'm going to do a full review on the game. I would love to, but the thing for stuff like that is typically, if you want to not sound like an idiot, like maybe I did this whole video, you want to write out some type of script, and I don't really like doing that. But maybe, we'll see, man. So far, I gotta say, it's pretty goddamn fantastic. It's exactly what I hoped for. You know, the boss fights, especially towards the end, people kind of were complaining about them a little bit because they are insanely difficult. People are like, this is just difficult to be the difficult. I thought it really wasn't, man. I feel like it could have even been harder, and these bosses were already fucking hard. And I feel like they were so hard because you can't power level through them. You know, all of these 15 bosses or mini bosses that I named on the list, they are so difficult because of that reason. You can't summon 4 of your friends and just destroy a boss. You can't be soul level 200 using some of the most overpowered weapons. You can't dark bead one hit a boss. You know, this is going to be one of those games. It's going to be so much fun to watch people do no hit runs because it's going to be ridiculously impressive. You're going to have to be absolutely perfect for those no hit runs. I definitely can't wait to see people try that. I don't know if I'll be trying them myself because I know I'm not that great at the game, but these are my top 15 hardest bosses and mini bosses. I would love to hear your guys' hardest bosses and mini bosses. Definitely leave them, you know, leave your top 5. I would love to see that. Top 5 in the comment section down below. But thank you guys very much for watching this video. If you made it this far, maybe drop a like. It helps out the channel. It helps out the video. Thank you very much if you do so. And I hope you guys have a good day. Talk to you all later, everybody. Peace.